from the Post Millennial. They say Trump considers suspending writ of habeas corpus to combat judges blocking deportation. Now, I must admit, when we originally thinking the big story for today that we want to cover is this Ukraine peace deal. Not peace deal, but the minerals deal. But this is, should it be true, massive. Now, the thing is, Trump didn't explicitly say it, but I think it's clear what he's intending. Charlie Kirk said it. Charlie Kirk is in the know, so maybe he's just insinuating, or maybe Charlie knows something, but we've been hearing this conversation bubbling up. I got to be honest, it sounds like the inner circle, Donald Trump's team, is they're putting out feelers on the suspension of habeas corpus. The president has the authority to do it under Article 2, Section 9 of the Constitution. He can, in the event of an invasion. Let me play this tape for you guys. You can hear for yourself what he said, and then we'll go through it.
You mentioned this last night in your speech in Macomb, that we're facing an unprecedented situation where there's a lot of abuses of nationwide injunctions, sort of seemingly designed to curtail your power, specifically when it comes to deporting these illegal, violent aliens that came in under the previous administration. Yeah. Have you spoken to your team about ways to mitigate this and continue to deliver for the American people?
Well, there are ways to mitigate it, and there's some very strong ways. There's one way that's been used by 3 very highly respected presidents, but we hope we don't have to go that route. But there is one way that has been used very successfully by 3 presidents, all highly respected. And hopefully we don't have to go that way. But there are ways of mitigating that. I want to thank you all very much.
There are ways. Charlie Kirk tweets, President Trump is considering suspending writ of habeas corpus for illegal aliens to combat national injunctions by activist judges designed to block deportations. President Abraham Lincoln famously issued the Presidential Proclamation 94, suspending the writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War. We then have this story of Common Dreams, a progressive activist site. Absolute insanity. Right-wing activist asks if Trump will suspend habeas corpus to expel more migrants. And then, of course, appearing on Steve Bannon's War Room, Mediaite reports MAGA influencer tells Steve Bannon Trump, quote, will have no choice, end quote, but to suspend habeas corpus. And that was a week ago. I think these narratives are emerging because people who are in the inner circle are telling Trump, his advisor are telling him this, these nationwide injunctions are unconstitutional. They're not going to stop. Anything you try to do on deportation, they will circumvent. However, let me pull this up. Article 2 of the Constitution, right here, right? Executive power vested in the president. We go down to, I'm sorry, did I get, wait, where is it? Clause, section, what's that? I got the wrong one. Which article was it? Was it Article 9? I think I had the wrong article pulled up.
I'm not sure what you're looking for, so I can't help.
There's under the executive authority, the president has the authority to declare. I got to figure out which one this is. I thought I had pulled up. I pulled up the wrong one. The president has the authority during times of rebellion or invasion to suspend habeas corpus.
Yeah, you'll find it. Regarding this as an invasion, I was thinking a couple days ago, I've been thinking this for a while, even if the Biden administration had tried to defend our country against the invasion, there was like 12 million, you found it?
Wrong article.
Okay.
My bad.
Which you got?
It's Article 1, Section 9.
Based?
The privilege of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it.
So you might think, is it an invasion if they don't have weapons? Well, technically, yes. So even if the Biden administration had defended our borders against it and only 3 million people got through instead of 12 million, we'd still have to do something about those 3 million people.
The Biden administration invited people. They didn't do anything to prevent illegal immigration. They were not defending the border. This is, to me, this is obvious, right? I know that there are a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, well, this is a problem and the president can't do this or it's unconstitutional. There was absolutely an invasion of millions and millions and millions and millions of people that the previous administration just allowed into the country. The only way you can get rid of them, and we've talked about this, you are not going to be able to have every single person go in front of the judge, and that's what the left wants. So take that option off the table. Other presidents in history have done it during unprecedented times. This is an unprecedented situation. Do it.
So I'll tell you where my mistake was. I was assuming this is under Article 2 because it relates to the president's powers because presidents did this. However, the argument that people have is that Section 9 pertains to the legislative branch. And I don't know that actually is true just because it's under Article 1, which Section 1 states legislative powers vested in Congress and largely deals with Congress. And the reason I say this is that Abraham Lincoln suspended the writ of habeas corpus unilaterally. And it was only a few years later Congress actually passed a bill basically saying, yeah, that was okay, like that he did that. So the question is going to be, can the president unilaterally do this? Well, the precedent is that he can.
Of course he can.
And this, right. And this is going to get very interesting. I don't know. I got no answers for you. We can't exist in a country where you can let in 20 million illegal immigrants and then Trump can't use standard deportation powers.
Right. Because if it happens again, you just can't.
It's not even just about Trump. It's about the following administration trying to right a wrong that the previous administration did. They neglected to do their job. Joe Biden himself said you should surge the border, invited anyone that could get here into the country, and then they started shipping them throughout the country in order to change the political makeup of the several states. That's what the HHS was doing with the refugee resettlement program. These are all well documented. We talked about this. That was a real program that the HHS was doing. It's not happening anymore under Kennedy, thankfully. But the remedy for this is to get the people that are here illegally out of here. And if the requirement to put them in front of a judge, which I don't even think that that's actually a requirement anyways, but if that's the narrative that the left's going for, or that's what people want to see, just get rid of the habeas corpus for non-citizens. And this shouldn't be a blanket for all Americans. If you're in the U.S. and you're a citizen, you should, of course, you should have your the right to habeas corpus, but when it comes to, here, if people that are here illegally, just ship them out.
What about people on green cards, legal visitors?
Well, those people wouldn't be subject to deportation for being here illegally.
But if they had habeas corpus stripped, if only citizens remained with habeas corpus, what would that mean exactly for people that were here on a green card?
I think that the State Department could come up with a solution for that. But the
so
state would say, okay, you're here on a green card, then okay, you can stay, because green cards are something that green cards are at the discretion of the State Department. So,
or like a visa.
Those are also
someone's here on a visa.
Those are also at the discretion.
But so if the habeas corpus was suspended for a human in the United States, what would that mean? They have no civil rights?
No, that just means that means to deport them, they don't have to go in front of a judge.
What other rights do they lose?
This means specifically one thing. Illegal immigrants right now can be subject to expedited removal. They don't go before judges. That's just not a thing that happens. An ICE agent can see a guy and say, we have reason to believe that you're an illegal immigrant. You have paper, you have an ID or whatever. If the suspicion rises to probable cause, then they can detain you for longer and try and figure things out. Meaning, do they think your documents are forged? But let's say what typically happens. A guy comes in, they say, what are you doing? They say, oh, I've come here, I don't have any paperwork or whatever. Okay, expedited removal. That means we can get you out of here ASAP. You don't go before a judge. That's most of the cases. That's what Obama was doing to the tunes of millions. Suspending habeas corpus means that the people who live here, who are considered MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, that have been adjudicated as such, will not get a hearing. They will be deported right away. So the Supreme Court basically said everybody's got to get a habeas hearing. That's where, when they arrest somebody, they can go before a judge and determine whether or not it was lawful detainment or arrest. Do we have the right to hold you? But in the instance of like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, 2 courts had already adjudicated him as a member of MS-13. The only due process issue that's being questioned is he was supposed to get an interview with a USCIS agent to determine whether or not the circumstances in El Salvador had changed. They have changed, so he is safe. So it's only a technicality that he didn't get his review after the fact. The Trump administration could probably do that review and it would be over. And they could even do it from here, from the office, without interviewing the guy. They just be like, we reviewed the circumstances of El Salvador. He's fine. He's safe in prison. Have fun.
So this, sorry.
No, that's it.
So this is kind of a sticky situation because I see the arguments that like Phil's making where it's like, hey, look, the Democrats created a big problem for us. We have all these people that are here illegally that, quite frankly, we don't have the infrastructure to properly get them in front of immigration judges to get, some type of proper, adjudication. But at the same time, I also see the problem where you can have people where won't be able to see a judge in their case, right? Like we can look at some of the people that are being, arrested by ICE for, their comments against Israel, right? The anti-Semitism laws that they push, like the girl that wrote the op-ed or Mahmoud Khalil, whatever, where they're not going to get due process. So I see both ends, because there's people that need to be removed that are here illegally, that, you might need the suspension of habeas corpus to kind of get things through, because we don't have the immigration infrastructure to deal with it. But at the same time, you do have a good amount of people, or you do have people that do have valid cases where they need to go see an immigration judge. So it's a very difficult situation where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's tough. It really is tough in this situation, because there's people that quite literally need to be removed, and honestly, they don't even get a right to a judge because they've been ordered removed by an immigration judge. And then you got other people that kind of have to go through the process and see an immigration judge.
There's no answer. There's no
clear-cut answer here, because every case is different.
Well, what I mean is, you've got TDA, you've got MS-13, and you have 20 million illegal immigrants that flooded the country.
Yep.
They are doing everything in their power to unconstitutionally block Trump. The problem is Trump can do nothing and then be unconstitutionally blocked, or he can declare, as Abraham Lincoln did, we're going to suspend habeas corpus for these people under the Alien Enemies Act and deport them to El Salvador. Why is he doing that? Because Venezuela will not take back their TDA members. The people from Venezuela who were released from the prisons and kicked out of the country, many of Tren de Aragua, Venezuela basically said, screw you, we won't accept your flights. So where do we deport them to? Trump cut a deal with El Salvador saying, hey, we've got criminal gang members from Venezuela. Venezuela won't take them back. El Salvador said, we'll take them, but their criminal gang members are going to jail. And Trump said, okay. Supreme Court said they got to have a habeas hearing before you do that. If he suspends this, he can deport them under the Alien Enemies Act. Just there you go.
It's a lot of freaking power for one man.
It is, but here's the problem. I do not want Trump to suspend habeas corpus. Obviously, he's not doing it for all Americans. He's doing it for illegal immigrants, meaning only after you. Okay, so these are people who are found to have already been TDA or MS-13. They are picking them up, sending them back, sending them to El Salvador or to jail. There's no hearing for this. They're not American citizens. So it is a difficult position. I do not want Trump to do that. However, the position we are in right now is Trump does nothing, and then we have MS-13 gang members, 20 million illegal immigrants. And I'm talking like at large. I mean, some argue it's 10, some argue it's 40. If Trump does nothing, it gets worse, and then we have to deal with the ramifications of that.
Like their kids.
And not only that, the immigration system is extremely cumbersome, slow. Like, we're talking about people might not be able to see a judge for years. And this is why we have a lot of the problems that we have, is because these immigration judges, a lot of the times, this is what happened with Biden. Basically, these illegal aliens would come in, they would get a notice to appear. Instead of an expedited removal, they get the NTA, and then they kind of just go out into the wind, and they don't see a judge for years. And this has been a problem in the immigration system for a while. Even when I was on a job, I knew that if I gave someone an NTA, they wouldn't see a judge for a very long time. That's why I rarely ever gave out NTAs except unless they were informants. So we have a big problem in the immigration world where we also need to reform the immigration court system as well.
And listen, I hear your concern about people that are targeted for what essentially is freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
And I understand your point when it comes to there should be no laws against criticizing Israel.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be laws against anti-Semitic speech either. I'm fully on the same page with you there.
Sure.
I will say that the people that are targeted by ICE and stuff like that, when it comes to those type of activities, they're also almost to a man anti-American and anti-Western, very frequently anti-capitalist. They're anti-American, and they want to see, the destruction of the United States, destruction of the Western way of life. So, whereas I do understand your point, and if it was just about Israel, I'd be on the same page with you. But I don't, because of the other activities that they're involved in, almost all the time, I don't have a problem with getting them out.
What's the anti-Semitism? What happened? Like some people on a visa?
Two big people were there was a bunch of students that have been basically arrested and deported by ICE because of their speech that's critical of Israel. Like one girl up in Boston, she wrote an op-ed and they went and grabbed her. And here's my thing when it comes to the anti-Semitism thing. Like, I used to work for ICE, so I understand how their resources are kind of spread thin when it comes to going and deporting people. I think going after college students that are legally here on F1 visas, that are going to class and doing what they're supposed to do, and their criticisms of Israel, targeting them is a gross misuse and waste of resources that they could be using on going on illegal aliens. Because number one, we don't have the immigration infrastructure from the court system, and we also don't even have the resources when it comes to agents going after these guys. To waste it on people that are talking about Israel is kind of ridiculous, especially when they're legally here versus all the people that are illegally here that really need to be deported.
I'm on the same page with you. I completely agree, and that is fair. But there is the Venn diagram of people that are anti-Israel, that are also anti-America and anti-West, is almost a circle. You can't, like, if you listen to people like, and not saying that, just for an example of the attitude, right? Hassan Piker, very, very anti-Israel, very critical of Israel, right? Also hates America, hates capitalism.
Pro MS-13.
Yeah, pro MS-13.
Very successful capitalist, by the way.
Just every bad thing that you don't want in your country, that's Hassan. Now, I'm not saying Hassan should be sent out of the country. He's an American citizen, even if he's an anchor baby. But I used him as an example of the attitude and the opinions that tend to be of the people that are critical.
Let me respond to
Israel
that. I think that's what sets us apart and makes us the best country in the world, is because we allow people that don't like our government, that don't like our country, to be able to exist and say it. And that's quite literally what separates us from these other countries. That's what makes us so great.
Again,
so though I disagree with their worldview and I think that they're wrong, I think us allowing them to say what they want to say for their political views separates us from everyone else and makes us great.
I'm with you, except for people that are not American citizens. Hassan, as an American citizen, fine. He can say that stuff. He's an American. He was born here. Cool. American citizens can be critical of the United States government, can be critical of our way of life. That's fine. But if you're going to come to the United States and you're going to go to school and you're going to be here as a guest, and then you're saying things like America must be destroyed, beat it.
Well, here's the thing,
beat it.
Though I see your perspective, and I actually do see where you're coming from with there. The reality is this: they can burn an American flag and be fine. It's when they talk about Israel that they're getting deported. That's the problem. That's my issue. We will enforce immigration law on people that are critical of Israel instead of people that are insulting the United States.
I don't have a problem.
If they just said death to America and didn't say anything about Israel, they could stay. But if they say, I don't like Israel, or write an op-ed about it where they're not even talking about anything else besides the country of Israel, not Hamas, by the way, they're getting deported. That's my problem.
And again, that when it comes to the whether they're critical of Israel or not, I'm on the same page with you. Like, there should be no laws against anti-Semitism. There should be no laws against people that are being critical of Israel. I'm 100% on board with that.
I hate 100%. These anti-Americans just like you. I used to put them in jail. But my thing is, that's what makes our country so great. I know. But that's what makes our country so great, is that we allow them to say that they hate America, unlike where they came
better
from.
idea. Moratorium on immigration.
I mean,
I agree. 1 to 5 years, bare minimum.
5 years?
1 to 5. I mean, 1 to 5 years, bare minimum. I've said this for a minute. No more people in for 1 to 5 years.
That's not a long time. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
And largely because
we need to reform everything, Tim. And I can go through all the weak points that we have, like the visa system, broken. People coming in here on J1s, F1s, destroying our country, overstaying their visas. We got the border, which Trump shut down for a good amount, but it's still susceptible to people coming in illegally. The marriage fraud scheme that we have, where people are literally abusing our document. It's a benefit fraud situation. We're getting beat on so many different angles when it comes to immigration.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.